Yep. Good evening, everyone. So last session we started discussing about the forms, right? Angular 14. So we learned about how we can deal with the forms using third party. So the third party forms we are using Formic. We saw the difference how actually React forms will collect the data and how Formic will collect the data. For Formic, we have simple process. What is that simple process? We just need to import a Formic, use Formic hook. And in that, we need to configure initial values. And we have to define on submit. Already I explained this on change. We collect the values and bind with them. Earlier, these functions also we have to write, but in Formic they are already written. We have to just use them. So in this, how we can manage validation, we will see. Today we will see Formic validation. How to handle Formic validation. Actually, to handle validation, Formic can use validation function or validation schema. It can use two things for verifying values. For verifying values, it can do two things. Validation function is configured and designed by developer. Developer will configure and design function, but schema not. Schema is configured by using another third party. Another third party, that third party called yup. We call it as yup. So this yup will provide more simple thing for validation. It provides validation schema. We will see both validation function and validation schema. Validation function is nothing but actually, so validation function we have to write like this. Validation function means developer have to write a function. We need to write a function like this. Function, some verify user details. This function will collect form data. They will collect the form data. Means whatever entered in all the controls in the form, it will collect. Now, after doing that, what it will have is actually this function will have an errors object. It will have an errors object, and it will have the logic for verifying form data. All the logic for verifying form data. That means which field, which validation. You have to write all the logic yourself. That means it's not ready-made logic. You have to write the logic by yourself. And after that, you have to return errors. That means this logic will store error messages. It will store error messages in which reference? Errors reference. And those errors we will return. That means what this function is going to do? It is going to collect your data, verify the data. If there are any errors, store the list of all errors in an object and report those errors. How it will report the errors? After you write this function, what we do? This is validation function. Now, what we do here, constant, we have formic, use formic, that is the hook in that settings. We have given what are that initial values. Initial values we will mention name, age, mobile and all. After that, here we have validate. This validate will use that verify user details, this function name. That means now what happens is, whatever form values are there, those values are passed into it. Those values are passed into it. Into which function they are passed? Verified details. After passing the form values into that function, your logic will verify, and whatever problems are there, those problems it will store in errors. And it will return those errors to formic. That means this function is returning errors which you can access through formic. How to report the errors? So we have to report the error like this. How to report that error is, we have to access formic dot, what is the object errors, and which field name. We have to mention the field name. That means it will report that field name. That means it will define the errors of that particular field. Errors of that particular field. That is how it is going to manage. So what formic can do? So formic is going to verify the details and report the details. Earlier, what we have to do, we have to write on submit. On submit, check is username is there or not and all. But now we can define like this. We can configure like this. So separately write all validations and just attach to formic. Formic will verify and report. But this is also lengthy. Why lengthy? Because here also you have to write all validations by yourself only. I will show you. Let's go to the design now. We have to write validations for these initial values: username, age, mobile, and city. So let's write a function. Inside component, I am writing a function. Verify user details. Into that function, we are passing these values by using a reference. I will say form data. That means form data contains username, age, mobile, and city. Now, in this function, remember every validation function must return errors. In formic, every validation error must return errors. So, where errors is an object and return errors. But what are the errors that you write? So first we will verify username. For username, suppose we have conditions. Conditions like name is required, name minimum 4 characters, name maximum 10 characters. Those are the messages we want to verify. So we will write a condition. If how to collect the name, they will enter in formic. by using form data. Form data will have a property called what? Username. If it is equal to empty, that means this is an object which contains all values. You are verifying. If username is empty, what should happen? If username is empty, then we will write like this. So here we will write a simple, we need to store error messages in errors object. We need to store all error messages in that errors object. So this errors object will have username property where we will put a message. What is the message? Username required. Understood? That means now what happens is into the errors object, there is a property called username. It will contain the error messages which are related to username. Username related all errors we are storing in which location? Errors. We are collecting the form data of user, age and all, and we are verifying and storing the errors. Okay, this is okay. Now this is required. We will write another condition here. So that means we will put here else if, that means another option. Else if what? If form data dot username dot length, that is a string, is less than 4. If it is less than 4, then errors dot username is equal to, we need to put a message. What is that message? We need to put a message, name too short. If it is less than 4, name too short. Again, else if, what is the condition? Form data dot username dot length is greater than some 10. Then it should display a message, errors dot username is equal to what it is? Name too long. We will put detail like min 4 characters. So max 10 characters. Like this, we will put messages. So verified details will collect your username. It will verify, is it empty? If it is empty, it will put this message. It will verify, is it less than 4? Then it will put this message. All this is stored under errors.username. That is for username. Similarly, for age, we are defining here. We are writing another if. This is form data dot what? Age. If age is empty, then again errors dot age is equal to age required. That is the message. Now we have another condition, else if is NaN, what is it? Form data dot age. If is NaN form data dot age, then errors dot age, okay. Errors dot age, it should display age must be a number. Like this we are writing. We are defining the conditions for age. Okay. Now how do you write for mobile? If mobile form data dot what? Mobile is matching with mobile, actually it should match with the regular expression. Dot match, you can use match. Regular expression is written in double slash. In that regular expression, you have to put slash plus 91 slash D and 10 digits number. If it is matching with regular expression, mobile, if it is matching with regular expression, so errors dot mobile should be empty, nothing is there. So else what should be displayed? Errors dot mobile is equal to invalid mobile. So plus 91 and 10 digits. This is the message we are displaying. Remember, these all errors are returned by your function. What is that function? Verify user details. This function must be used by your formic. So after defining initial values, we write validate. Validate, what is the validation function name? Verify user details. That's it. That means now in this, what happens is, first, whatever form values are there, these form values are passed into this function. Those values are passed into the function. Formic will take care about that. Formic will pass all the form data into that user details. Now what user details will do? It will do that user details will collect the data. It will verify username is matching with this. If not, it will keep error message in errors username. And now similarly, it will verify age, it will verify mobile, and it will return errors. Now these errors you can access with reference of formic and display here. Now where to display? Here in data definition, here name error should come. How to access? Simple. Formic dot errors. There is an errors property now. This errors can access, see username is there. That means errors object stored some error message in username that will display here. And we are using the class name text danger. The same we have to do for age data definition. So class name is text danger. And here we have to define formic dot errors dot age. Similarly, here another data definition. And here we have class name and text danger. And here we are defining formic dot errors dot mobile. That is what we are defining. For city, we haven't written anything. So we can write for city because city -1. So we will write a function here. If form data dot city is equal to -1, then what should happen? Errors dot city is equal to please select your city. This message should come, else errors dot city is equal to empty. Nothing is there. Now this city error must be displayed there below. I am adding a data definition. Here we will put class name as text danger. And here we will just keep formic dot errors dot city. Now you see here, these all details are defined. So you return all the functions. And these functions are used by using validate. Now I go here, refresh the page. I click on submit. Those details will come. So those details will display. I haven't given mobile required. I am directly using mobile match. I can give mobile also required. If it is empty, required. Otherwise, match. Okay, see now, I'm clicking here and typing some name too short. Automatically, it verifies that. I am typing here, so David, now it is okay. I am going more than 10 characters, then it say name too long. Maximum 10 characters. That's good. Now I am not writing any on change what to do and all. I am just writing my validation and attaching to validate. It will verify that. It will verify. I am removing, it says minimum short. I remove, then it says required. You remembered same thing we written manually for different events on change, on key up like that. Now it is good. Age is required, then age must be a number. I entered a number, that's fine. Mobile is required. I entered mobile. Now it is fine. I'm selecting a city. Select city, then it says please select city. I'm choosing a city, then it is fine. And submit it. It should submit the data. That we will do because we haven't written any concept for that. We will write. Means when all are success, how to collect the data and all. I written submit, but I haven't written the logic. If valid, submit. If invalid, submit. We have to handle that also. We will see. Now, initially, this is the validation we are defining. This is the validation we are defining. So, validation is nothing but here little bit simplified. What it is simplified, you can write all validations in a function and you can verify the validations and you can return those validations. You can return the validations. That is basically you can do. But this also not much user friendly, means developer friendly and satisfied, because every message, every validation we have to write manually through a function. That means how you will verify min length, get the length, check the condition, is it less than or greater than. For this, we have solution. They provided one more library. You can try that library. That library ready-made return functions for pattern, for min length, for max length, for required, every purpose they return function. Is it number or string? For every purpose. They return ready-made, just you use them. That means this is okay, working fine. But here, all validations we are writing. We are writing. Now see how we can simplify this. I will copy this now. I will put this here. This is an example for that. Now, this is okay, but all validations I have to write. Then what you can do is you can try another library. So validation schema using yup library. Yup. Actually, Formic is very much used with this library. Yup is a library for Formic to define validation schemas. Validation schema. What is validation schema is nothing but it provides built-in validation functions. It provides built-in validation functions. You don't need to write, you just need to call and tell. So that means built-in validation functions for verifying data type and value, for both of them, type and value. So, but you can verify both of them, but in order to use it, first you have to install, because it's extra library again. That means we need to install npm install yup and save. Once you install this yup, what is the specialty is now syntactically how you can write is, first yup provides lot of ready-made functions. You can import them. That means you can import required, import min, you can import max, you can import pattern, like that. From which library you can import? Yup library you can import. Like this. If you want to import all methods from that library, you can write like this: import asterisk as yup from yup. Like this you can do. What it will do, asterisk means all. It will collect all methods and store them in yup, and it will import all methods from yup and store in yup. You can access all those methods by using yup. That means how we do? We have constant formic. In the formic, use formic. Okay. In that use formic, this time you have same initial values. Initial values. What are initial values? You tell. After that, you can write validation schema. In validation schema, instead of validation function, you can write validation schema. In validation schema, you can write yup. Yup have an object. This yup object can define your field name and validation. Field name and what validation you want. Then you can write the validations like this. Suppose this field name is required. Then you can write yup dot required. That's it. If you want this, I can add more validations. I want to verify min length. Then min how much? 4. If I want to verify max, then say max. Max how much? 10. If you want any message, you can put a message. So the message is like name required. Here you can put a message, whatever you want, you can add your own message. If you don't give message, by default it will give message. You can overwrite the messages. Now, not only verifying these, actually you can verify anything. You can verify pattern. You can verify even data type. Data type means you can verify string. You can verify number. You can verify Boolean. You don't need to write functions, call functions. These are ready-made functions provided by yup library. If you are using ready-made functions of a library, then you have to use validation schema. If you are writing the functions by yourself, then you have to use validation. You are writing a validation function and you have to write that. Yup library advantage is it reduces. That means it simplifies now. Let's try. Now remember this yup library also. So remember validation schema of formic. Formic will return same errors object. You don't need to write any errors object. By default, errors object is created and returned. That's good. That means we don't need to write manually much. Little reduce. Little bit reduce. This looks good. So we can handle validation by using validation schemas. Let's try this now. For that, I will remove this validation function. I will remove the validation function. Okay. I'm deleting the validation function. Lot of lengthy function we have to write. And I'm removing this validate now. Now there is no validate. Errors generally we can display the errors. Currently errors will not be there. It is submitting empty now. No errors are defined. Currently there are no errors. Now we need to write errors through validation schema. Then how to handle the validation schemas by using another library? Yep. Let's install it. Open the terminal, npm install yep and save. I'm downloading and installing this yep library. This app library will provide you a lot of validation schemas. By using the validation schemas, you can handle. Okay, it is done. Now we need to import that yep library. We have to import all as yep from which library? Yep. So that is the library we have to add. Asterisk means all functions are imported. Now see here, let's go to the design. Here we are writing simple. We will write validation schema. We are writing validation schema. Validation is function. Validation schema, it uses now, this validation schema uses yep. Yep have an object. This yep object contains field name. What are the field names? We have username. What is the validation for username? Yep. By using yep, we have to use string. That means it is string type. I can add more validations, or simply for clarity's sake, I am just using enter. And here I am defining another one. What is it? Required. I'm using required, and see, it is saying if you want any message, this question mark is nothing but it indicates optional. Optional means if you don't give message, it will put some default message. If you want, you can keep a message. What is the message? User name what? Required. Okay, next what? Min. Min is how much? 4. And what is the message? Name to short. Min 4 characters. Okay, what is another message? Max. Max is 10. What is it? Name to long, max 10 characters. Like this. That is one field. Understood? This looks better than previous. Previously, if else, switch, case, so many conditions we have to write. This is ready-made schema. Similarly, age. Okay, what is that? Age. Yep. You have to use app dot what type? Number type. So this number type here you can see we can define another dot. What is it? This is also required. And we'll say age required. Required, that is the message. You can put min and max for range of age if you want. That's not required. As of now, I will add another one, which is mobile. Mobile. And here we have to add yep. And what is it? Mobile is also string. And what is that? Dot. It should use a pattern. Pattern is actually we use where is this pattern is not there? Match. Yeah. Matches with regular expression. Matches with regular expression. What is the regular expression? Right? This is double slash slash plus 91 slash D. How many? 10 digits. And we can have a message. What is it? Invalid mobile. Okay, this is also required. That means dot what required. The same mobile required. This is the message. Now, but very important, these schemas, because if any one is best, that is used by everybody. Schemas have a problem. Schemas have a problem. Problem is nothing but they can't handle every element. Suppose how to verify checkbox checked or not. Which schema function will you use? Required? No. Is there any checked like schema function? No. Then you have to manually write. That's the reason you cannot say that this is best. We have to use different depending on situation. That we can use both combination, validation schema. We can add both. Now what happens here? This is okay, written this. Now what happens? We need to apply these error messages. Apply these error messages. Now one very important. How many fields are, how many properties you mentioned? For username, how many are there? 4. String, required, min, and max. We need to access all these errors, all these properties, and display them. We need to access all these properties and display. Then what we have to do is here, this is not errors.name now. This is not errors.name. That means actually, now see here what happens. When I click on submit, you see name is required, mobile is required. I am entering, suppose age is required. You see age is also required. Age is also required, and you can verify. Suppose I am entering, refresh this. I click on this, you can see name and this required. I am entering name too short, it is fine. It is handling fine. That is, there is no problem in that. That means it is managing that functionality. Suppose I entered some string, you can see now it will show. Now it will show. Why it is not showing required? Because it is not showing the required option, because the required is when you start typing. That means when you start entering some value into it, then it will verify. Because it's a number type, until or unless you type, it will not verify whether it is a value and it is a string type. You entered some number, that is fine. You are entering some mobile, then it is fine. It is going to display. So this looks little better when compared to validation, because here you don't need to write much functions. You have to just call and use the functions. You just need to call and use the functions. So this is little bit simplified. Simplified when compared to validation. That is the reason we use validation. We use validation schema. But you cannot write a schema for city because it's a drop down. We cannot have a validation for that. Then what you have to do? You have to manually write a function. On change, city error. Already I showed you that. You use state, city error, verify is the value is there or not, or verify is it -1 or value, and display the message. So we are gradually reducing the logic. We are gradually improving the facilities. First you return the original React way, not satisfied, lot of events. You used Formic now, but Formic is good in submitting the data. But again, for validation, it requires validation function. To reduce the issue of validation functions, writing manually, you can use validation schemas. but validation schemas are not still satisfying. That means they are not satisfying. If validation schemas are not satisfying, then you can use another technique. You can use another technique. That means this is okay. This is by using what? Validation schema. Validation schema. By using validation schema, you can do it. So that means it will return the same errors object. Schema also returns the same errors object. Now we can put that validation schema and define that. This is again. This is another example for validation schema, which will do little simple things, but you have to make sure that you have installed yup. You need formic and you need yup for that. There is another simple technique now. That means little bit more simplified. What is more simplified is actually you can use another concept. Actually, formic have formic components. Formic have formic components. Formic provides some formic components. These formic components, what is meant by component? Component means ready-made design, ready-made functionality. Just you need to import and use it. This looks more good. Why? Because now even you don't need to write much schemas. Schemas you have to write because what errors you want, you should tell. But design is simplified. Design is simplified. Ready-made components will be there. That means what you saw here, lot of binding na. Lot of binding. That means form on submit, handle submit, name, it's have a username on change, formic dot handle change. Lot of UI bindings. Lot of UI bindings are required to display error message and all. Now what you can try is you can use formic components. Actually, formic provides predefined components for form and validation. Actually, it have components called formic, it have component called form, and it have a component called field, and it have a component called error message. You can use this. We can try this. We can try this. That means we can use this formic component and you can handle the validation. We have formic, form, field, and error message. We can use this technique. These are ready-made actually. Now, if anybody asked you anywhere in interview, form and form, both are same? Not same. Not same. This is a component of formic library. This is HTML form. Both are not same. Their functionalities are different. Functionality means properties are different. So this is not a HTML form, right? Just capitalization changes, F uppercase. They are not same. This is a component of formic. This is a HTML form, right? You can use this component to make it more simplified. Then how we can manage that, how to handle that? So formic can be used, form components can be used to design. Let's see one example how we can manage. That means how we can use the formic. Let's see. Now our concept, what is advantage of component is actually component provides a template design and functionality. So it is clean in separation and error handling. It is clean in separation and error handling. Cleanly separates the UI and error handling. Let's see how it works, means how it manages. How to write that actually. So see, generally, now we write the formic like this. So we have to write formic. Inside the formic, we have to write a form. Inside the form, this is formic. Inside the form, we have to write a field. So, and inside the field, for the field, we put an error message. Error message. These are the components we have to write. That's how we do. So we have a formic form field. Validation schema is same. Validation schema is same. Schema you have to write same. Only the point is how you present will be changing. That means little bit simplified. Lot of bindings are not required now. Little bit simplified. How it will be simplified? Let's check. I will create another one because this is already there. I will add a new component with a simple, yeah. I will add a new folder, formic validation. Formic validation. And I will add a new file, formic validation .component.js. Okay, we will use here. We have to import use formic from formic, and for writing the schemas we have to import asterisk as yup from yup. That is the library we need to configure. So export formic validation. So that is a function. Yeah, and this function will return. We will write a simple formic here, class name container fluid. And here we will put a heading. So register user. Okay. Now here I need to design formic. So first we will create a simple, before creating we will import this constant. What is it? Formic, use formic, and here we need to configure initial values and all. Now not required this. This is not required. Directly component will provide this. You don't need to import this. Directly component will do. That means what you can do now, inside your formic validation, directly you can design a formic. This is a component. In this formic component, now here important, you have to tell what values this component should handle, what schema it should handle, what submitting it should handle. Everything you have to mention here. Everything you have to mention here. How? You see this formic component have properties. Every component have properties now. We created our own components and properties also. Right? Now this formic have properties. One is initial values. And this I will put it in new line because here a lot of properties we have to add. What is initial values? Here it is an object. That initial values will contain what? It will contain some user name. It is a string type. Okay. It will contain some age. And it will contain some mobile. Like this we define. Okay. Age is a number. We will put as 0. Okay. Initial values you written in formic. Next. What is next? Remember, these are all properties. What is another property? Remember, you are writing like a tag in a tag. That means what is the basic syntax here? So formic component provides properties. properties. Like this, you have to write formic initial values. So we have to write on submit. We have to write validation schema. Like this, we have to put all the values. All properties must be written inside that start tag. Am I right? In the start, you have to define all. That's what I am doing. This is start tag na. In that initial values, next. We want validation schema. That means on submit. First, what is on submit? On submit is equal to, we have to collect, what we have to collect? Values. We have to collect the values, and these values must be submitted. We have to collect the values and submit. Or here, how to collect the values, I will tell you. So on submit, I am giving an alert. What we should alert? So we have to just give, so the values is formic, not formic, just we need to keep all the values. We need to configure the values. This is how we need to define. But when we submit, after designing the fields, right? After designing the fields, we need to submit those values. We will do that. Actually, here it uses what? A callback function, which will collect the values and submits. Before submitting, it should validate. How do we write the validation? Here we have to write validation schema. What is the validation schema? Validation schema is nothing but how to write the validation schema. You just saw, we have to use yep. Yep dot what? Object. Object. But see, in order to write them, it's an object. You have to know what is its type. In that again, how to write the properties. Yup requires these all properties to define, but you should know how to write those properties. How do you configure the properties? Actually, it is referring to this validation schema. This is referring to, you can see, it is a schema or a function that returns yup schema. Here, what are the fields we are writing? Fields is what? User name. What is that for that? Yup. So we have to use yup. We need to use yup. What is the yup option? Yup type. Yup type is what? String. If you want some message, means we will put as what? Required. What is that required? Username as a required. That's the message. Now, what is another one? Here we need to define, we have to configure age. Age is what? Yep. Yep. What type? Number type. And we need to configure. So here we need to specify this is also required. That means required, and we define age required like this. We have another option, same pattern we have to write. That means we have what? Mobile. Mobile should match with what? Yep. Yep dot what? Matches. Matches with what? Regular expression. So is it what type first? String type. And another one is yep. Yep dot what? Matches. Matches with what? Regular expression. We need to write a regular expression. This is dot, not all. You need just dot. Dot what? Matches. Matches with regular expression. Here we need to define slash plus 91 slash D and 10 digits. And we will put invalid mobile. It is also required. Then we will put dot what? Required. So say mobile what? Required. This is the validation schema. So that's how we have to configure. Now, generally, remember dynamic values, what we have to write on submit. On submit is equal to dynamic. This is actually dynamic value to write. That means how do we write? We need an expression. In this expression, what we have to define? Values. Values implies what to return these values we need to configure. This is a function. This function collects the values and return those values. But are these values ready? Values are not ready. First, we will make the values ready, right? How do we make the values ready? Inside formic now, this is formic. Inside the formic, we will just design a form. This is form. Inside the formic, we design a form. Now the form contains all the fields. We need to define all the fields for the form. That means we need to keep a data list, data term. I will say username. How to create data definition? How to create a text box? You don't need to create a text box. You need to just create a field. That's it. What is this field type? Field type is text. That is text. Now remember, this you are knowing because I am explaining you, but every component may not be like that, because I am using formic component, but there may be several other third-party components people using. If people are using different other third-party components, their properties will change, their references will change. This is related to formic. You don't need to stick this, right? You should not think that this is how everybody does the validation. No, because of our third party is formic like this. If it is a different third party, completely different, they may not have these components that I am explaining to you. Already I told you that, right? This is only related to formic, right? Already we discussed that yup library na. So npm JS, here you have seen the yup library, the yup library for formic. This is object schema. This is actually the yup library, how they give. You see, they will give you all the options how to configure and define. That means all the options, lot of functions will be there. And various techniques, the API methods, you can see lot of methods. In number, in string, so many are there. Even you can use a component like, means ready-made component. You can see ready-made component is not there because yup is not component. Yup is just only schema. Who is the component? Component is what? Formic. Formic is the component. Suppose you see formic component, you can see this is the formic org, and I already showed you the documents. In the document, you can see this is the validation. Somewhere component is there, you see, these are all components. What components they are giving? Formic, form, field, error message. This is their documentation. Every component, third party, different. You need to explore. Now you go to this formic and you can see it will show you how it handles. That means what are the options to handle, how to handle, it will define. The options to handle, how to handle, everything it is configured here. Right. So I will show you how we can manage that. Means how to handle and manage that. We will see one example for this. Already we mentioned initial values and all. We have to define the properties. Let's see here now. Actually, what we are doing, field is what? Type as text. And remember, you have to explore that because every field type is not text. Means every field don't have type. For if you want a drop down, it's not field type text, field type select. It is field as select, not type. That means those according to control, the formic components will change, fields will change. This is okay, fine. Now next thing is How this is binded to these values? We have to bind with those values. Generally, what we have to do is here, we need to just keep a property. We have a value property, or no need of value also, just put a binding expression here. We need to access, which field related properties? Username field related properties we have to access. Then what we have to do is here, we need to use all properties we need to access. We need to use a REST operator. REST operator, through that we can access formic. That means, so formic dot, we have get field properties. What is it? Formic dot, we have get field properties, props, and we have to mention which field properties we need to use. The field properties, which field? User. That is how we need to bind. That means formic get field properties. What does this means? One argument to read all parameters, na? REST, na? This is REST. That means it gets all the properties. Actually, this is not REST. This is called spread. We call this spread operator. I explained that, right? Spread operator. That means what this spread operator is doing, it is referring to all the properties that you mentioned for whom? Username. This everything you have to get help from here. You can see these are the fields. So generally, where is the form? This is the form field. Yeah, you can see this is field. I told you now, some fields have as, some field have children, some field have component. And remember, if they release the latest version, early version have field render. Now they removed it. They will be keep on changing. Now you have to mention those properties here. That means you need to configure that here. How do we configure? You see, drop down is defined as I told you. What is it? Select. We need to define that select. That what is the type and what is the name? You need to configure the type and name. That's how we define. For validations, error messages, I will tell you. You can see it shows this option. What is it? This is for field. This field is referring to what? This field is referring to name, first name, some field. So actually different methods are there. I am showing you get field properties now. Actually here they use a little bit complex presentation. This much not required in the initial stages. You can just use get field properties. Where is that? Right. Validation message we have. Yeah, so let it be here. Instead of wasting searching here, I'll just show you the point. Now, which property we are collecting here? Username. And error message should display for whom? That means we put a data definition. Here we will put error message. Error message. Error message is a component. For which field? Error message name. Field name is what? Username. I'm just adding that. That means just field, get field properties and define them. And what is the error message? Error message, use it. Here some more points are there. So this is configured. This is formic validation. Let's keep this in the startup. So formic what? Validation. Formic validation. And you can see here some errors. What errors? Some webpack failure. What is the problem? Get field property is not a function. We imported all of them. Error message, field, formic. Username is there. Yep. And what is it? Another button, right? I will add a button here. This is register. And here you will see the option. Schema is not there. On submit. Let's check once. We are not writing submitter. This is another property we have to write on submit. On submit is we collect the values, and what we have to do, we need to alert JSON dot string file. So whatever values we submitted. Now here some error in that username field. Let's check. Actually, it should use on change, handling change, na? But that change will be handled by using formic. Let's see any change happened in that page. Where is the field? Field type is text only. Means we are just checking, is there any change in this version or not? We are using only one. This property properties. Without that properties also we do. Here we have the change. It should display. I think some changes made into this components. What are the changes they made? So let me check here. Get field properties. Acha, they changed that version, right? They updated some new components in the new version. Actually, get field properties, they migrated. In the new version, they removed these components completely, right? So that just few weeks back, it is version 1. In version 2, they removed it, right? So actually get field properties, they migrated from that, deprecated. Then we cannot use this now, right? That means deprecation means they have removed that method called get field properties. Then I will check once because they made some changes in this library. I have to once verify what is the new change they have made. Then I will explain tomorrow, right? So because this already they given a deprecation warning that they made changes into these fields. That means properties have been deprecated. So if they deprecated, I will once check what the properties newly they added into this library, then I will apply them. I will show you that. Okay. Let me first verify. Because I thought same word be there. I haven't seen these deprecations, means some new properties are added. Let me check once. Check and I will let you know tomorrow. Okay. So we have to explore because any change made, we have to make the changes available, right? Tomorrow we'll see then. Tomorrow we will finish this validation and we will start a concept called routing, right? We will discuss about routing. Okay, right.